Imagine this baked apple cider donut. Seriously, imagine with me here, it's gonna be worth it. If I bite into it, then I'm gonna be happy because it's sweet and delicious, but at the cost of increasing my blood sugar level and being unhealthy. Now, these outcomes don't make the donut good or evil, it's just a donut. If I was craving it, then I'd focus on the positives, on how delicious it is. And emotionally, I'd be motivated to eat it. But if I was thinking about my health, I'd be focusing on the negatives, and emotionally, I'd avoid it. Now, whether you are motivated to eat it or not is based on your emotional response, or the gut feeling that you have in your stomach. And it's something that you can control, if you choose to. Hey friends, my name is Vincent and I'm a financial stoic, and by the end of this video, you'll learn why you should be one too. Stoicism made me drastically better at personal finance and investing and allowed me to build my wealth significantly easier. It might appear that stoicism and finance are completely unrelated, but trust me, by combining these two aspects, you'll gain a brand new perspective that'll be immensely valuable. Not only when you decide to go and eat a donut, but also how you view your finances and the entire world. Before you think Stoicism is an ancient Greek philosophy that isn't relevant anymore in the 21st century, you should know that the ultra wealthy like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Elon Musk, they all practice some form of Stoicism. In fact, I challenge you to find one massively successful business person today who doesn't follow some form of the Stoic philosophy. But before I share why I'm a financial Stoic and why you should be one too, let's actually travel back in time a couple thousand years to understand what Stoicism actually is, because many people get it terribly wrong. Stoicism is a practical philosophy that's about how to live life and how to live it better. It started in Athens over 2,000 years ago by a merchant named Zeno who was on a trading voyage that eventually crashed, and he lost nearly everything. On his way back to Athens, he met a man called Crates of Thieves who completely transformed Zeno's life. In fact, Zeno once said, "I made a prosperous voyage when I suffered shipwreck." Since meeting Crates of Thieves and studying philosophy for several years, Zeno started his own school where he would literally stand on a porch in the marketplace and talk to anyone who would listen. That Stoa, which is the Greek word for porch, became his school, and his students became known as the Stoics, or the men of the porch. So what exactly was taught on that porch that became the leading philosophy of ancient Greece and Rome that flourished for nearly 500 years? And withstood the test of time and is still applicable today. The key message is to separate the way the world happens and your emotional response to it. In other words, think of it like two circles. One represents all the things you may worry about, and one represents all the things you can control. Strive to separate the things you can control, such as your internal emotions and thoughts, from things that you cannot control, the rest of the world. The biggest misconception about Stoicism is that it's not about removing yourself from all emotions, but rather emphasizes the control of our responses to them. It embraces a mindset that leads us to be less impulsive, more aware, and more reflective. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because many people think that Stoicism cannot relate to money and wealth because of this, but they're completely wrong. Although Stoicism is over 2,000 years old, human nature remains exactly the same. In fact, I'd even argue that Stoicism's principles are more applicable today given its important insights into behavioral finance. In fact, Stoicism's core values go hand in hand with financial freedom, which is having enough money to afford to live the life you want on your own terms. And when these two aspects are practiced together, it can make achieving wealth significantly easier. When I tell people that I follow Stoic principles, they automatically assume that I'm apathetic, that I refuse happiness and pleasure, and that I'm super cheap. You see, the thing about our society today is the divide. People automatically assume that you are either on one extreme or the other. You're either a cheapskate or you live a life in luxury. And I get it because it sells, from Netflix specials being made on pure minimalism or TV shows about the Kardashians. But the thing is, these extreme cases, they don't provide us a middle ground. And that's where Stoicism comes in. Stoicism for me is living with freedom and peace of mind. And I find it has become an essential part of my personal financial life. Epictetus, a hardcore Stoic, once said, "If you can make money remaining honest, trustworthy, and dignified, by all means do it. But you don't have to make money if you have to compromise your integrity." Simply put, if you want to make money, then do it. But do not compromise your peace of mind or let your peace of mind depend on money. And I'm a big fan of this mindset because it doesn't judge money or the desire of money. If you want to get rich, go ahead and do it. If you don't want to get rich, then don't. That's the essence of Stoicism when it comes to wealth. Just because the Stoics believe that there are more important things than wealth, like values, that doesn't mean that wealth is not important. Rather, what is actually important is that you don't let wealth or money control you. And once you have that freedom, that escape hatch from money, then, and only then, will you become financially lethal. You see, most people are either scared of losing their money or they're scared they will never have enough money. And if that's the case, then your life will be dominated by money. But you need to realize that at the end of the day, money is just a tool, and the way you feel or use that tool is what makes a difference. Many people don't realize that they're on this never-ending treadmill. Sometimes you might be walking on it, other times you might be running, but you're always on it, and you're always heading in the same direction. That is until you acknowledge it exists and actively step off. And Stoicism can help. I'm sure you felt this way before. You had cravings for bigger and better things, fancier cars, bigger houses, and more money, because we believe that these things make us happier. It's because of this concept known as the hedonic treadmill, which states that a person remains at a relatively stable level of happiness, despite major positive or negative events. Think of it like this graph. Happiness is on the y-axis and time is on the x-axis. This line is our base level of happiness, and these waves are positive or negative events. Now, regardless of what happens to us, our level of happiness will eventually return to their baseline. Let's say, for example, you're getting a new phone. No doubt you're gonna be happy and excited, but what about in a few weeks? What about in a few months? Eventually, over time, our happiness will level off, and that brand new phone will just become another phone. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few ones." And the Stoics believe that because of this human nature, this human adaptation process, that we should learn to control our emotions to external events as it relates to our happiness. The new house, the new phone, the new salary, all will increase our happiness temporarily, and then we will quickly return to baseline. And this becomes very dangerous when we constantly want more and more, to the point that it severely impacts our finances and traps us inside golden handcuffs, always being dependent on a job to pay for the debt that we took on, to pay for the unnecessary wants. Stoicism is the critical principle to understand prior to giving in on future wants and cravings. Just as we decide how to react to the donut, we can also decide what to spend our time and our money on. But Stoicism goes far, far beyond that. It becomes even more important when it comes to growing your wealth. In fact, some of the greatest investors of our time, Ben Graham, Warren Buffett, and Michael Burry, they all share the Stoic way of emotional self-control. I'm sure that we can all agree that markets are irrational. In fact, the stock and cryptocurrency markets today are clearly in a very volatile environment. And in these environments, people tend to get caught up in emotion and panic sell, which is the worst mistake to make. Research has shown that time and time and again, that emotion is one of the biggest threats to our investment returns. Markets can go up, down, or sideways. No one can tell the future, not even Mr. Magic Lamp over here. And although we can't control what happens, we can control our reactions to it. My investing strategy was heavily influenced by Stoicism, in that before I ever invest my money, I studied the company and the investments deeply. I truly understand what I invest in, and therefore I can detach my emotions from market volatility, because I'm in it for the long term. An extreme example is with cryptocurrency, given how volatile it is. I bought Bitcoin and Ethereum back in 2017, way before the mainstream media hype that is right now. And after I bought it, the crypto winter arrived. Crypto prices crashed and remained down for years, but really it didn't bother me because I believed in the coins and the cryptos that I purchased. I controlled my emotions and I held on to the coins despite all the panic in the media and online and social media. And now fast forward to 2021, I 5x or 6x on my original investment. Stoicism teaches that the best way to invest is to buy and hold and ignore external market conditions, assuming that the company is fundamentally the same as your original thesis. Now, before I even knew officially what Stoicism was, I'd already developed a very similar mindset. In fact, I remember one night in college when I was staying up late working on a paper in the library that I accidentally knocked over my water bottle. And the water, the contents, is spilled onto my keyboard, and my computer immediately crashed and shut down, and it wouldn't turn back on. And in that moment, I was so furious, I was so annoyed at myself, because now not only do I have to spend hundreds of dollars to fix a computer, but I also completely lost the research paper that I spent days working on. But then something clicked in me. Me being angry or hating myself for being careless changes nothing about what just happened. Rather, it would just make me feel worse about myself. So in that moment, I told myself to stop. I calmed down and accepted the fact that what had happened, and me getting angry doesn't change anything. Except the next best thing to do that I could do was to learn my lesson and to try my hardest to not let it happen again. Although Stoicism worked for me in that situation, I'm not here to say that this mindset can work for everyone. It can be extremely challenging depending on your socioeconomic status and the situation that you're in. It's hard to apply this philosophy everywhere. That's why I love Stoicism even more. Think of Stoic philosophy as just a guide. I'm far from being the perfectly rational human being who doesn't let my emotions impact my decisions. That type of person doesn't exist. But here's the beauty of Stoicism's principles. You have the freedom to pick and choose how you interpret the philosophy's core values and how much of it you want to adopt. Every modern Stoic interprets the philosophy a slightly different way that is both personally meaningful and feels scalable for that person. And if people complain that that's not real Stoicism, well, who the fuck cares? You're a Stoic. Just detach your emotions from what others think of you. Think of Stoicism as a pair of glasses that helps you navigate your financial journey. Many people striving for financial freedom focuses on a specific net worth in the future that they tie to their happiness. But the journey should be more than just getting there or arriving there. Rather, we should focus on the journey itself. And that's where Stoicism can fit in. And despite everything I just said about financial freedom, make sure you check out this video on why you need to stop chasing it, because that's not what you actually want.